Hey there, everyone. I hope you're all doing good. For once today, I will show my face because I have a guest. I will explain that later. But mostly we are here to talk about this thing, the Roland CMU 810. Those things are very rare, but it happens that I have no less than two friends who actually own one of these. This one belonged to my friend RYK, who I'm running the label Collage with, and I have another friend who is running Handicap Records, where I released a bunch of records as repetitor, who also has one. I've used one on the track that's called Compu 1. That's on a Geometry compilation release, if I remember well, as on my album Shapeshifter. It's a very lovely synth, but you really don't see that much about it online because it's quite unknown. And it's super expensive now, as everything that is rare and collectible. And so we are going to talk about it today. Also, it's the 50th birthday of Roland now. And I think it's the 14th birthday of this thing, as it was released in 1982. My special guest in this video, which is Mr. Alex Ball, who is a kind of a Roland specialist, is going to talk us about this whole Compu line of Roland right now.
Right, so the history of this. So Roland had made the first ever microprocessor controlled sequencers, starting with the MC8, which was followed by the MC4, which I have. But they could already see what was going to happen, which was that sequencing was going to move over to software on computers. And so Roland thought, how can we be a part of that? And because sequencing could be handled on a computer, but not sound production, that was another step beyond, Roland spotted a gap in the market for standalone sound modules with SCSI ports and ribbon cables that could be connected up to your computer to replay the sounds that you sequence. And so, under their Amdec brand, they launched the Compu music series with the CMU 800. And that was also the first ever multi-timbral desktop unit. It had drums, it had bass, it had chords, and it had melody. You find those modules badged as Amdec, Roland DG, or just Roland, but they're all the same thing made by the same people. They then made a computer interface for that, the System 100M, an analog modular synthesizer. The 160 computer interface, they made about 30 of them, and I'm told they were made to order for specific people in Japan only because it was so niche and so esoteric at that point that Roland couldn't offer customer support for it. So it was bought on the assumption that you knew what you were doing with it. And I found one photo of a guy called Goro Irikiyama who is using two of these computer interfaces with an NEC TK80. Yes, this is how far I've been down the rabbit hole. I need help, I know. After the CMU 800 and the computer interface for the System 100M, there was the CMU 810, which is what this video is about. Of course, it's a little bit different. It's not a multi-timbral unit, as will be discussed in this video. It's basically an SH101, not quite. And then beyond that, it changes. Why? Because MIDI was coming like a tsunami, and of course Roland were part of that. And so that kind of technology became obsolete very quickly, which is why you only find this Compu music series in a very brief window, kind of 1982, 1983, before things moved to this, the MPU 101, which is MIDI to CV, and then just to MIDI. From there, you start getting into the MT32 and beyond, where things go into computer game audio. That's another story for another time.
So let's talk briefly about how this thing works. This is one of the most simple analog synth design that you can find, typical from the SH101, MC202. It does sound a little bit bassier, a little bit like more nasty, just a tiny bit than the 101 and 202, I guess. That's my feeling. There is one VCO with different wave shapes. Yeah, the square wave with pulse width. We'll leave a tiny bit of reverb on, if you allow me, because it still sounds better with a little bit of reverb. Okay, so there's the manual pulse width. The pulse width can be controlled by the LFO, which is one of the best sound in the world, or the envelope, which is a typical Roland thing. So let's make a more shaped envelope, so you can hear that low. Something that I always liked as well. Then there is a saw wave, a sub oscillator that can be either 1, 2, or 2 octaves down, but with a narrow pulse. Let's listen again. And a noise. Then you can mix all this. Noise, the saw, big chunky sub, and some modulated pulse. That's quite good, right? Then we have a filter. So let's go back to a pure gate envelope like this. We have a 24 dB low pass filter. That's very good. The filter has the typical liquid resonance of all the classic Roland. Then you can route the single envelope that is controlling the VCA. You can send it control only positive though, the cutoff frequency. Then you have a mod, which is basically the LFO controlling the filter. The fader is broken, so I'm using this. I basically just don't use it most of the time, but I will show you anyway. So the LFO is just a triangle wave. We have this typical Roland thing, the delay parameter, which is when it's at 0, we have the modulation all the time. And when we put this on, the modulation takes some time to happen. This modulation can also be sent to the VCO, actually. So yeah, you can do some vibrato stuff. You have this CV, well, because yeah, I haven't talked about this, but this synthesizer is only CV controlled. Right now I have the gray cable here, going here, which is the 1 volt per octave, the note signal. The blue one is the gate, and the red one is the velocity out of this keyboard that we will use later. And so this CV can be sent to the filter, which is basically your filter tracking. The lower you play, the less the filter is open. The higher you play, the more it is. One of the fun part of this synth is this, which is very weird. I'm not don't remember what this does. I think it's polarity switch, but I will check. So you have this mixer basically. So this is the signal of our synth. Here we have an output. So basically here we can set another input, plug drum machine or something. Here there's a VCA in the middle, which means we can control the level of those two before we have another input and then the final output. So, as Alex said, this whole Compu thing series from Roland was supposed to be controlled by a computer, by a software made by Roland. And to pay sort of a tribute to that, I'm going to sequence everything from the tracker, which is basically an old computer, but in a modern enclosure. So here's what I've done. I've sent MIDI through this awesome CV OCD of MIDI channel 1 doing the 810. I've decided to keep it on a very simple sound. Like good old bass like this. MIDI 2 is the 202. There's a bit more complex sound and with the delay here. And I've sent the mono out of the tracker to this part of the mixer. Some proper twisted, jazzy breakbeats in spring reverbs and 808 sample also in spring reverb. For this proper squat pushery thing. So this mixer doesn't really come in handy in this kind of situation where you just want a drum part and one this synth and another one. You have everything. I'm going to use the velocity out here and plug it to the VCA input. So here we have something a bit more dynamic. It's clicking a little bit, but this will affect also the output of the 202. Okay, so now I've set the velocity of channel 2 to be a bit less pronounced. And I'm going to use it to control the filter, taking advantage of the CV mod of my 202. Going to use the fill function of the tracker, random every 4 step. And let's add some more. Random density 28%. Ooh, that's good. That's the power of computer sequencing. That's a good thing as well. I forgot to mention. I could act on the gate length of all these steps. And it would be a very MC4 thing to do, actually. Because I didn't even bother to put some off step, which are what's used in the tracker to decide the length of a note. So I need to change the envelope behavior now to hear it. So now you see I have a part where all the notes are very short. Again, another way of sequencing this thing with a more complex thing. Okay, so now let me show you the Extended family jam. This is our friend, the 810. It's being sequenced by the channel 2 of the MC202. Like, when they are like this, you can see how related they are. Basically, the only difference is that this one does have the noise and the 202 doesn't have it. And that's pretty much it. And here, I have the 202. And the 202 is first going to this whoa and flutter delay pedal before arriving here. And there's a slow LFO sweeping the frequency of the filter. And here I have the 880. This is a jam. So in this context, the 202 makes a lot of sense with this guy. As it has the second channel of sequencing, you can make that sequence a duet thing that's in the manual of this guy. Instead of doing it with the 101, this one is even better as it doesn't have the keyboard, it's smaller, basically the same size. But yeah, this one is way better build than this. This one feels, the fader are not that great and they're old, I guess, maybe. But this one really feels like a toy compared to this in terms of build quality. And once again, this little mixer thing just makes it quite fun, actually. Same kind of thing. You can use it with a 303 type acid box because most of those have the CV gate out. So here I have my normal acid line here. You can do it like, well, acidy and have this guy play something more, or like playing the sub or something. They work very well together. And play, but tuning it. Because this one doesn't have a tune knob. I'm not even sure it's properly calibrated, but so far it's been sounding okay. Or you can do the opposite. Have this one be the meaty one, even if this guy is removing a bit of low. And having this one be the acid one. Even try to play some percussion out of this. I mean, anyway, those are meant to be friends. So here I've summoned a few friends that are amongst the most Roland-ish thing that I have that are not Roland. And it can go like this. So here I'm using that part. Here I have the synth itself. Nothing here. And here I have the level of the drum machine. And so the mix of the drum machine and the synth is going out here from this output. And everything is going through those FX pedals. You can have that weird chorus E bit plus synth. Add reverb on top of everything. And here this is this awesome sequencer that is doing pitch, gate. It has internal slide and stuff like this. And I wanted to show you that CV thing. So I have probably some stuff stored in this. We are going to check it out. So you can program some more CV that are independent from this output. I'm going to use this in the VCA here to make some accents. Yeah. I usually use this to control filters or stuff, but here gives another type of groove to the thing. Let's switch to gate here, which is something that I haven't shown you, that is also common to most of the Roland synth from that era. Now, the VCA is just controlled by the gates. So let's make more long gates here. This is the gate length. Let's make some random stuff. Also, I wanted to show you that we could use something like this that I've set to LFO. So we can make directly amplitude modulation from this VCA here. We can switch it to exponential, more weirdness. Or you can use it. Let's go back to something more bright. You can make tremolo. And this could be controlled or triggered by something different. So here I have untied the gate pattern from this sequencer and applied another envelope to this. So, many thanks to everyone who watched this video. Many thanks to Alex for his participation. I will put some samples of this somewhere on Patreon. There's already a big sample bank of the MC202, but I will make one more with the 810 so that you guys can have fun with it. So please like, subscribe, all those YouTube thing. Go check out Patreon. And there's also a clone of this now made by Michigan Synthwork. I'd like to try it actually.